for Hills Ferry, and also troop leaders we have tonight are Julie Tidwell, Carol Castaneda, I don't believe here, and Jill Landeros. Just one. Teresa Brown. And Teresa Brown. Okay, at this time I'm going to ask that that the Girl Scouts come up here for their Pledge of Allegiance, and ask that the audience please stand for the Pledge. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Girl Scout attention. Color Guard attention. Color Guard advance. Color Guard, please post colors. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please join me in the Girl Scout promise? On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. Color Guards dismissed. Girl Scouts dismissed.
If we could remain standing for the invocation, please. Sorry. Thank you, God, for bringing us here safely tonight. Please give us the guidance and the wisdom to make the right decisions for our community. In this we pray, amen. Amen. I want to thank the Girl Scout Hills Ferry Service Unit, the troop numbers that I had read earlier, for coming tonight. At this time, can we have a roll call, please?
Present.
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 Present. Item number 5, these are communications from the staff. Is there any staff that have anything to report to the City Council at this time, or if there are any questions for staff? Okay. Item number 6, these are items from the public. These are non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Are there any non-agenda items? Okay. Items from the public. These are agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the Council on a matter on the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the Mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the Council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the Mayor and Council grants a longer period of time. Are there any questions on agenda items? Okay. Item number 7, this is the consent calendar. Item A, approval of warrants. B, approval of minutes of February 23rd, 1999 regular meeting. Approval. Item C, approved contract for city engineering services with Precision Inspection. D, approved memorandum of understanding between Newman Crow's Landing Unified School District, After School Learning and Safe Neighborhoods Opportunity Center Program. And item E, introduce and waive reading of the following ordinances that relate to the Uniform Building Code. At this time, I will ask that one item be pulled, item D. This is a memorandum of understanding with the Newman Crows Landing Unified School District and the city for a School Learning and Safe Neighborhoods Opportunity Center program. And we have Mary Pickford here, and she was going to give us a quick rundown before we adopt this.
Thank you. This is the second time in 2 months that I've addressed the City Council, and I appreciate having the opportunity to do that. We have nearly completed the after-school safe learning grant with our partnership in the Healthy Start program, and now this second opportunity is to provide an after-school recreation and enrichment program to utilize the resources of our community to better serve children. We can see certainly by the Girl Scout troops and the active involvement of community members, parents with children, it makes a very strong and powerful community, and that's what the after-school grant would do as well. We appreciate your support philosophically and then whatever other ways you may with in-kind match. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions? No questions. I just want to reiterate again, this is nice to see the school district and the city working together on items of mutual concern, and we look forward to continuing working with the school district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, at this time, if there are no other questions with regards to the consent calendar, can we have some direction on that?
I make a,
You go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as such.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. At this time, before we go into item 8, I would ask if the Girl Scouts would like, you are more than welcome to stay for the meeting, or you could, you know, if you, okay.
Well, no, you're definitely welcome to stay.
It could get pretty boring for them, you know. So cute. She wants to stay. Show her the she's been. Look at all her badges she's got. I had a ton of them when I was a kid, too. Cute.
Okay, item number 8, these are this is a public hearing. This is item A, resolution number 99 next to number. A resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281, abatement of mistletoe. Ernie?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is a code enforcement issue having to do with mistletoe removal. I'd like to begin with an explanation for the need to abate. Mistletoe is a parasitic green plant with yellow flowers and waxy white berries that grow on trees, and the birds love to eat these berries. When they're feeding on them, the birds tend to get the berry juice on their feet, and so when they go elsewhere and land on other trees, they tend to infest those trees. Once a tree has become infested with the mistletoe, you can't eradicate it completely. All we can do is cut the tree and prune it back and try to control it. So we sent abatement notices for the mistletoe to 23 properties last month, and in the notice it also informed the property owners of the nuisance abatement procedures, their options, and their right to object at tonight's public hearing. Earlier I distributed a list of properties that had not abated the mistletoe, and at this time staff recommendation is for you to declare the list of properties with mistletoe to constitute a public nuisance and direct abatement by the provisions set forth in ordinance number 95-4.
Okay. At this time, this is a public hearing item, so I will open up the public hearing for questions. If there are no questions or comments, I'll at this time close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for questions or comments to the Public Works Director.
I had a question that I asked Ernie earlier. I wondered if any of our city trees were infested with mistletoe, and if so, what are we doing to abate the situation in our own trees?
Every year our city crews go throughout the city and make sure that all our street trees have had the mistletoe cut back. Now there are tolerance levels because, you know, like as I stated before, you can't cut it out completely. What we try to do is to keep it from forming the flowers and the berries. So you may see some small twigs and mistletoe up there, but we just want to make sure that we get the ones that are a threat to other trees.
I have a comment. There was 23 originally. I'm amazed that actually 13 of them complied. I think that's great. I mean, really, I'm happy that they did that and that there's only 10 left that have to be pursued further. So I'm happy about that.
And I'm sure that the rest of them on here are planning to do so. It's just that they haven't had the opportunity. We do tend to go back and talk with them and say, you know, the abatement procedure has been authorized, and so you still, you know, how much time do you need to get it abated? And we'll work with them.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Ernie, what is the final solution to this if they will not take the mistletoe out themselves?
What we do is we contact tree contractors, and we have them come out and give us a bid price to do all the properties that haven't abated them. And then when they do come in, we'll bill them accordingly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, can we have some direction on this item?
Move that we declare a list of properties with mistletoe to constitute a public nuisance and direct abatement by the provisions set forth in ordinance number 95-4. Did I do that right?
Actually, and
I'll
adopt the
second.
resolution, yeah.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, we have a roll call, please.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item 9A, review and grant conceptual approval of park location within Dave Tatro proposed annexation located south of Von Renner School, subject to approval by the Parks and Recreation Commission. Cleave.
Thank you. This is an item that's come before the council previously, and we were directed to go back and work with the developer, with the school district, as well as any others involved in trying to solve this situation. Several council members have asked me about the issue that shouldn't this go to the Parks and Recreation Commission first, and technically that is the way that we normally do this. However, because of timing, we decided to follow through with this at this time, because of the fact that what you will be approving tonight is only a conceptual matter. The real approval process will come through a tentative map, and so what is done here could actually be changed by the Parks and Recreation Commission or by you during the time that tentative map comes through. But in order to gain an understanding on our part and also give the developer an understanding, we were recommending that this be done this way. If there are any major concerns that come out of the meeting with the Parks and Recreation Commission, we will definitely bring it back to the council for review. I don't expect that to happen. With that, I'd like to just walk through a few of the issues that I've presented in my staff report to hopefully get all the questions out and get an understanding of this. I will just state prior to doing that you have attached a letter from Mr. Tatro, also a letter from our city engineer consenting that this is a plan that will work for the city. As the council knows, when we reviewed this before, we looked at several issues involving the park in that location and how it would work. We looked at the fact that this had been reviewed several years ago and discussed quite extensively with the Parks and Recreation Commission. At that time, it was decided that we would look at a 3-acre park located adjacent to Von Renner School. As we looked at it at this time, it was brought back and requested by the developer to be reviewed, and we took a look at it to see if there were issues that were noteworthy issues that would justify us bringing this back up again and looking at it. The major issue, and I've spelled most of these out in my report, but the major issue that came up that raised concern in my mind was the issue of the detention pond basin that is currently in the Creek Canyon subdivision, and also as new subdivisions develop, particularly this one and others in that area, will be required to handle storm drain runoff. So additional detention pond basins will be required. And as we looked at that, as I looked at it, I tried to come up with ways and say, you know, how can we avoid having these detention basins in our neighborhood, and how can we make better use of them? What most communities do in the valley in this area, if you look at Turlock, Manteca, Tracy, several valley communities, they use these detention ponds for park improvement facilities. We went back and reviewed that, and our first option was to look at being able to locate the detention pond, combination detention pond park adjacent to Von Renner School. And that would meet both of those needs, possibly being able to move the current detention pond and expand it so it would meet the needs of both subdivisions and locate that adjacent to Von Renner School. However, as we reviewed that, we found that that created a problem in that we needed to figure out how to get water to run uphill because that is actually on the uphill side of where the storm drainage in that area would run to, and therefore it created a problem for us, and it would require significant amounts of pumping and etc. that would not be a good way to go in order to relieve the storm drain runoff. It would be more expensive and cause more problems than it would be worth to try and do that, we felt. So our next option was to look at, well, if we don't do that, then we still want to eliminate these storm drain ponds that quite often become unsightly, weed patches, etc. The next option would be try to expand it in its existing location, or if we were to try and move it farther to the east would be another option, and expand it in that location and make it a dual-use detention pond and park. After reviewing it with the city engineer and Mr. Tatro and his engineer, we came up and felt that the best option was looking at the site where the current storm drain pond is and leaving it at that location, but expanding it to currently make it a 3-acre park pond combination, with the option and the recommendation that as future development happens to the south, we be allowed to require additional land to bring that up to a full 5-acre park, which is what is recommended in our general plan and in our neighborhood plans, that these parks should be a minimum of 5 acres. A couple of things that does for us, by only having to develop a 3-acre park at this time, we have less cost involved. So hopefully and I think we do have the money to be able to develop that park at this time. And as future development happens to the south, and we bring in additional fees from those developments, we'll have additional money to be able to develop the remaining 2 acres of the park to bring it up to 5 acres. You have some maps attached in your report that show the proposed location. The final drawing, as you will note, another advantage that this area did, we originally had the park drawn on your map, as you see. We talked to the developer and decided to pull out those 4 lots that you see X'd out, therefore eliminating those and increasing that area there puts it up to about plus or minus 2.5 acres there. Adding the approximately 0.4 acres located in the current storm drain pond brings it up to approximately 3 acres. The other advantage to eliminating those 4 homes there will create it so that at least, well, about 2.5 of the sides of the park will be streets rather than homes. Eliminate some problems of having parks backing up to homes, and also increases parking around that park for people who go there to use the park. I think those are the main issues that I wanted to bring out to the council, and I'm open to any questions. As I mentioned, basically all we're asking for tonight is a conceptual review and approval of this, and allow the Parks and Recreation Commission also to look at it. They actually have it on their agenda for this Thursday night. If there are any major issues that come up, I will bring it back to the City Council for further review. Otherwise, we will allow it to follow through with the tentative map process.
Are there any questions for Cleave on this staff report?
Cleve, you mentioned that eventually an additional 2 acres would be developed. Is that land adjacent to the proposed site? Is it would it be to the left?
To the south is what we're
To the
looking at.
south.
Yeah, so
Okay.
looking at the map,
Be to the right then.
yeah, over this way.
This way, to the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
To the left, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, when this is developed, it will be basically a concave area with gently sloping sides that will hold the water during storm season and still be accessible for playground or whatever.
And actually, with the park as large as it is, initially, I believe our engineers looking at it said it wouldn't need to be more than, 1 or 2 feet deep is what we were talking about, Dave, at the most. So it's not going to be a huge deep basin, and therefore very shallow slopes that or gentle slopes that we can have, and very shallow ponds. So.
And then when we add the the other 2 acres to it, we will just continue that concave area over into the other 2 acres.
Yeah, we can look at it, and depending on the storm drain needs that are there, it may not need to be concave. Those actually could be up. Many times in these storm drain ponds, you'll see where a certain area will be concave or lowered to create the detention basin, and then other areas are raised up in order to not have them actually down in the basin and subject to the storm drain waters. So it'll depend on the analysis by the engineers when they see how much capacity is needed there, whether or not they need to do the whole thing in a storm drain pond.
And one other quick thing. On our other City of Newman neighborhood plans map, it shows Creek Canyon, wait a minute now, Sandy. Yeah, Canyon Creek. Shows Canyon Creek going straight through. Now with our other supplement map here, we have it offset by 15 feet or so. Is that intentional to do that to break up the traffic flow, to slow people down? And
Yes, it was.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Questions on this side?
Just a comment. Of course, I lived in Fresno for a number of years, so I'm very familiar with these type of basins. And just to let you know, Dave, they're excellent because they serve a dual purpose. Not only are they an area for kids to have recreational area, but also when there is it's necessary for runoff, they provide a good holding pond. I know that one of the things that we have to make sure, of course, that during that period of time when they're full, we have to make sure that they're fenced in and it's locked up. That's all I have.
That's what I was thinking, the same thing.
Yeah, we'll come back, and I don't think that's something we need to discuss now, but if you look at a lot of communities, Manteca, Tracy, I believe possibly even in Turlock, they actually do not fence them. There's many of them that are not fenced.
Actually, yeah, in Turlock there is one.
Some of them maybe, yeah.
Yeah, there's one that's not,
Yeah.
it's huge, it's not fenced at
Yeah,
all.
the bigger ones are, and especially if they have a steeper slope, that's what creates the real issue. And the goal would be to design these so that they don't have those steep slopes and create that problem. So, but that's something that we can bring back and we'll review at a later date. So.
Just one comment that I had. I just wanted to clarify and make clear on the staff report here that the Parks and Recreation, this is just a conceptual plan here, and the Parks and Recreation Commission will review it on the 11th. At this time, I'll ask if there are any interested parties in the public who would like to speak to this. You're more than welcome to. Are you? Okay. If not, I will bring it back to the council to give some direction on this item.
I move we grant conceptual approval of park location within Dave Tatro's proposed annexation located south of Von Renner School, subject to approval by the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 9B, this is a review of the Newman sign code provisions. At this time, Cleave, you want to review your staff report?
Thank you. Just briefly, you have the staff report that was prepared both by the planning director and then additional comments. The only thing I would like to say here is that we have had several complaints as we were enforcing our current sign ordinance that is in place. As we enforced that, we received several complaints, and therefore, based on those and in talking with the mayor, we thought that we should bring it back and ask the council if they felt that it should be reviewed. Our recommendation is, as we looked at it, it is a fairly restrictive sign ordinance, and there are possibly some things that we should look at. I will state publicly, I guess, that in some people that I've talked to that have said that we should scrap it completely, I don't think that that's the right answer. I think there are some issues that need to be looked at and seen how we can make this work that is accepted by the community, accepted by our business community, and still allows what hopefully the business community wants in being able to keep our community clean looking. With that, our recommendation from staff is that we take the sign ordinance back for review on a staff level, create, and staff can do this internally, I'm sure, create a sounding board for the merchants and of the community, whether it be through the Chamber of Commerce or other forums that might be set up to allow them to comment on the changes that they feel should be made and the ones that we might recommend. With that, then it can go back through the full process that is required, because this is in our zoning code. It is required to go through the Planning Commission and then back to the City Council for final adoption and approval. With that, that is our recommendation, and we'll open it up for questions.
Are there any questions for Cleave on this? Questions?
One thing that I think it would be highly recommended that we review this ordinance. But in the meantime, I would ask that we not take any action based on the current ordinance pending review and changes.
I will say that staff, that's the way staff has been treating it since this came up, and we will do that. I will state, however, though, we need to have a little bit of discretion in that if there is something that is very flagrant in violation that people may want. We have had those type of issues come up, and not in the not too recent past, and therefore we need to have that discretion to enforce those. So,
I had one question. I imagine these laws have been on the books for a number of years, but I'm sure they...
Actually, this ordinance was revised in '96.
Okay.
So,
What my concern is that for all these years, a lot of these places of business have been operating with no problems, and all of a sudden, we reach this point, and I'm just wondering what precipitated it to get to this point.
Well, let me go ahead and address that. There was a couple of years ago, there was an update as far as what our code enforcement requirements were going to be, and so we revisited a number of issues, and the sign ordinance was one of them, and this was updated in '96. And as you see on the staff report on items 1 through 5, there were some strict guidelines that were included in there. So, as the staff report says, this is relatively new. And to answer your question, as far as there weren't any problems before, but now it seems that the pendulum has sort of swung the other way as far as how we abate some of these. And I think what Cleave is saying is that, and it's quite apparent, I think, to everybody, is that we need to revisit this and look at some of these regulations that we have in there. So I think that's what we're looking at. This ordinance is relatively new as far as with the current restrictions.
I guess in answer to that, what I saw is that if you look at the way the pendulum swings, perhaps what I'm hearing is that it swung. What's the proper word? It went too far this way, and perhaps we need to swing back to the middle. But let's make sure that we don't swing back to the other side and completely go the opposite of what we have now.
And just one comment, and I'm going to ask that the interested parties have the opportunity to speak as well. But one of the things that we just need to remember, we're coming up on our budget here, next couple months, and our sales tax figures over the last few years have had, for the most part, a downward dip. And we just need to be mindful of the fact that the businesses are the ones that are going to allow us to provide the services that we do provide. So with that, I'll ask if anybody from the audience who has an interest in this matter speak. Joe?
Mayor Marquez and City Council members. My name is Joseph Avila. My address is 1441 Hales Drive in Gustine, and my business is Newman Feed and Seed, located at 737 Merced Street here in Newman. I'll read just something I prepared here, and then I'd like to elaborate on it. I'm here to make an appeal to the sign ordinance. I would like to say that I appreciate the city's promptness in getting this issue resolved, as it is sparked much interest in the community, including non-merchants. I also appreciate the city's the government's concern of trying to make this town a more attractive and pleasant place to live. As a merchant here for the past 15 years, I have been a part of the city's maturity and growth as to what has become this beautiful town we call Newman. The sign ordinance was developed in 1995-1996 and is now being enforced. My feeling is that the sign ordinance is very restrictive and needs to be evaluated and made to be a little more merchant-friendly. Our merchants in Newman have to deal with a 10-page or 9-page sign ordinance, where Gustine has a 3-paragraph sign ordinance that tells me that something is wrong. I believe that an ordinance should be adaptable to the business and the areas in town. I have a feed store, and it was told that it had to be changed, the signs. I went to other feed stores to view their buildings and how they advertised. For example, I viewed Western Ranch Plaza in Turlock, Farmer's Best Feeds in Modesto, and Mountain View Feed and Seed. And guess what? These stores look like a feed store, and that is what I am. Newman is proud of their historical aspect. And if I was to show you a picture of a feed store back in the 1800s, the store would be saturated with signs advertising local grains, hay, and farm equipment. As a city council, you have an obligation to consumers and visitors in this area to have an adequate signage to help the customer to find out what they're looking for. In a business, graphic logos are critical to a company. As an example, what would Golden State Irrigation be without their golden bear? It gives immediate identification to products available. It is necessary to display logos and signs to customers as to what is being offered. I'm putting up Chick Days. I've been putting up Chick Days for the last 10 years, and I put signs up that says Chick Days, and we get a good response. Without that, how would anybody know? You are employed by the people of Newman. Part of your wages are paid by tax revenues. Without a thriving tax revenue, and as your mayor said, it has been going down, the community would be severely hampered. In closing, the city and its merchants need to join together in making Newman a place to be. Without our city merchants, Newman would be another ghost town. You want people to remember Newman for their small, town atmosphere and beauty. Our town may be small, but our hardworking merchants have a lot to offer to this community. And I would like to also say, okay, as a merchant here for 15 years, that, and a city councilman, not a city councilman, but a chamber member for that period of time, I know our merchant community basically contributes to a lot to this community, whether it is to the Fall Festival, in working or contributing to it, or religious organizations, churches, Knights of Columbus, whatever. And I think we basically ought to think that the merchants are the lifeblood of this community. Without your merchants, you're nothing. Without people shopping in this community, you're nothing. I live in a community now, Augustine, which is struggling very hard to basically have what you have. So please don't throw that out. Thank you, Minnie.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any other, go ahead, Louis.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Louis Manise. I live at 1221 P Street in Newman, and my business is Louis and Lila's Doubletree Clothiers at 1305 Main Street in Newman. To back up a little bit, we started our business in 1972, and the person I bought out Camp's Menswear at the time, and Mrs. Camp pointed her finger at me and says, "Louis, stay out of politics." But and she's right. She's right. You know, let politicians do and what they need to do, and let and us merchants do what we need to do. But there are times when we need to get together, and this has kind of been building up to a point where Joe and I both, and other people too, feel that, and we were encouraged also by the local media and other and citizens also to express our opinions. Joe just about covered it all. I just want to emphasize that one time when we were approached about a matter concerning, well, in this case it was our sidewalk displays, you know, and that's another thing that I'm sure needs to be addressed. We do have signs on the sidewalk displays, and so and along with that, I realized that the people enforcing these have they have a direction. They've been given a direction, and they're doing their job as they see it, and so we all understand that. So we need to go back to the roots of the problem, and that's the ordinances. I say ordinances because it's not just a sign ordinance, you know. Merchant friendly is putting it lightly. You know, my dear dad, who's 80 years old, when we were asked to make an adjustment to comply with a particular ordinance, he quietly walked over, leaned on the counter, and said, "I thought you were supposed to help us do some business around here." And I'm sure there can be some flagrant things too that need to be addressed. But most of us are conscientious, you know, hard-working people. We don't put in 8-hour days. We put in 10 to 12-hour days and 6 and 7 days a week. We work very hard, and we're proud to be a part of this community. And we're looking to you, Mr. Mayor and council members and staff, you know, to support us, and as merchants, to support the community. Weekly, you know, people come in asking for support for different types of charitable things, and that's part of doing business, and we do understand that. Perhaps I want to touch on a couple things. Probably could have come up during at another time, but it does all tie into the same topic, and that's the sign ordinance, but also look at the sidewalk ordinance. That's a brand new ordinance too. It needs to be much more merchant friendly there. And parking, downtown parking is a very big problem, and it's getting worse all the time. We've been talking about that for years at the chamber meetings, and I know letters have been sent to the council over the years. But we do need parking. In my opinion, it's very simple. Just a 2-hour parking, and the problem would be solved. So that again goes along with being merchant friendly. So, and I was approached tonight, and I appreciate the consideration. And it's probably something that we wouldn't be here now if it was done before. And that's asking the local, some of the local experienced merchants that care about the community to participate in some of the and give some input in some of the decision making. Anyway, and this so anyway, that's about it for now. And I know that we all have our hearts in the right place as far as Newman goes. It's a wonderful community, and we just need to work together to make it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Louis. Are there any other comments?
My name is Rick Azevedo. I'm at 8678 Cameo Way from Hillmore. I manage a local store here at Golden State Irrigation. We just located here in Newman. I didn't prepare anything tonight. I was coming to hear the hearing, what was going to be said about signs. Joe pretty much spoke for all the local merchants, where they're at and how they feel. We all know we had to jump through a lot of hurdles to get to this building. And there's been a lot of politics there. We've taken the whole building, the whole complete building, and all the way back to the very vacant one, which is almost 200 yards deep. We had a sign put up, and the sign company put it up, paid for the permits, got everything going, and then all of a sudden 2 months later I find out that he didn't do it correctly. We took the sign that was up there. It was triple that was up there. We painted it, cleaned it, did a really good job on the whole building, and put a lot smaller sign. And he said he paid for the permit. He didn't. So when the inspector came by and told me to take it down, there's where we had some problems. Now we got to dig for a lot of the people. I guess what I want you to know tonight, though, there was nothing dishonest done. We didn't try to go behind anybody's back or do anything. The way the sign is attached to the building, now I need to get the landlord's permission to rip it down. And then my other company, we have one in Salinas and one in Stockton and one in Arizona. They have triple the signs that we have. Vendors pay us a percentage to put their signs up. So when farmers drive by, they see a sign, John Deere or Honda Pumps. They know what we carry in the store. I can't put none of those signs up. We had them up in Crow's Landing, though. So they want to know why those signs ain't up, and I got to tell them we have to have signs taken down. So I need some help on that sign. I don't want to take it down. The size of that building compared to everybody in town, we triple their building. And I just feel that the size of the sign that the ordinance wants, it's very little for what they're going to allow us to do. We do have 4 sides of that property, and we need to put more signage up, if at all possible. The reason why we've taken the whole lot all the way back, all farmers now take their trailers and cow trailers and everything, and they park on the side. We wanted to keep the front nice and clean and not have it all plugged up or something like that. So with that, I say I hope we can work together with this sign and get it resolved, and hopefully I can get the rest of the ones also put up, if at all possible. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I comment just for a second? I appreciate you coming, Mr. Azevedo. First of all, don't tear your sign down. I'll be the first to admit, and I think I told other people that I think your sign looks very good up there. I think it's unfortunate that both you and I think the city in a way got kind of caught in the middle on this, because the sign contractor did not come into the city and do the permit as you had paid for. And you're right, you did nothing wrong. We agree with that. We're not faulting you at all for that. It's unfortunate that the sign contractor did not come in and do that, and I think a lot of this would have been avoided, and perhaps we could have worked this whole situation out a lot easier if that would not have happened. So thank you, and we will continue to work with you and see what we can accomplish. Thank you. Are there any questions for Cleave at this time? No?
I'd only like to reiterate what I said earlier. I would ask that we consider not taking any action on those citations that we've issued thus far. I don't really see any flagrant things happening in the next several weeks while we redo this sign ordinance. If that does happen, when the ordinance is in place, we can deal with it.
Well, if I could, an example that I would bring up would be the recent banner that was put up on the St. George Hotel. which we were immediately asked to please take down. And some of these merchants have brought that up to me. Without enforcing that sign ordinance, we couldn't have that taken down. So that's an example that I say we need to be able to have some discretion. We're not going to go out to Joe's place. We're not going to go out to Mr. Azevedo's because we know we are working on those issues, and we will do that. So.
Well, is there a way that we can take care of those flagrant things that are, you know, certainly in the public's eye?
I think what Cleave's asking for, as long as we just allow him and the staff some discretion as far as this. I'm sure the things that are very flagrant.
But with regard to the gentleman that has talked with us tonight, I would ask that we not take action and cite those businesses at this point.
Right, and we understand that, and I promise Joe we won't be out to your place tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day, or Mr. Azevedo. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, I just want to thank the merchants that came out here tonight, and just to touch on one of the things that Louis had made a comment regarding the messenger. You know, we have a tendency of sometimes shooting the messenger when, you know, I just want to make it clear, whether it's tonight or any other issue, that the city council is more than happy to take responsibility. You know, rather than shooting the messenger, it ultimately rests with us. And if there are things that need to be changed, then this is certainly the appropriate venue to change things like this. With the 5 items that were discussed in the restrictions, I would hope that those certainly be addressed, and we look at ways to work better with the merchants. I would ask that we establish this merchant panel with the staff to review this, and if the 3 gentlemen that are here tonight would be interested in serving on this, and maybe we could get a couple more merchants, that way we can immediately meet with staff and bring something back, because it'll go back to the planning commission and it'll come back to us. So if we could do that, is there a consensus from the council to do that?
Yes.
Okay. This is an
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
I like the way the feed store looks. I don't know exactly what all the ordinances are for the signs, because I just got sworn in, you know, a few months ago or a couple months ago, but I never even thought about it, you know. I mean, when I saw the irrigation store, you know, get all fixed up and stuff, I mean, that sign to me, it doesn't look hardly big enough for the size of that building. That's why I was giggling when he was talking about how large the building was, and yet the sign, it just, you know, I don't think it looks bad at all, and I think it's painted very nicely, and I think that signs fit with those types of businesses, and like the feed store, I think it looks really cool. It's got a barn look to it, and it's not, it is historic in a sense. The building, it looks like a feed store. It's not like a modern building that's, you know, like made out of metal and has all these big, huge signs just plastered wherever, you know, haphazardly. It looks really nice, and so I think the ordinance is extremely retentive and needs to be reviewed, and I feel bad that these businesses had to, you know, go through this. That's not good. It's kind of stressful for them, I'm sure. So I hope that we can get the sign ordinance changed sooner than later, you know, so that they can put their signs up like they like. And I think the Chick Days is pretty neat too. I don't think that the signs are a problem. And for the sidewalk ordinance, is that for signs on sidewalk sale stuff?
That's for displays, is that right, Bob? Yeah, it's a separate thing.
I think that I like that corner where Louie and Lila's is, and I see their stuff out there. And I've stopped in there. I've stopped in and I bought a pair of shoes because I saw them out there for sale. And if they wouldn't have been there, then guess what I was going to do? The next weekend, I was going to take a trip to Modesto and buy David a pair of shoes in Modesto. And see, that was money. It's only $15, but it was $15 that was put back into our community instead of in Modesto, because I didn't know that Louie and Lila's had shoes that were leather that cheap. So I just want to say that I think that the sidewalk stuff is really good. And I think there's a lot of other businesses in downtown Newman that, you know, look, you know, a little bit questionable. I mean, especially compared to these nice businesses or these owners that are here today. So I just hope that we can relax that, you know, substantially, so that these people don't have to be stressing out about the signs they're putting on their building. That's all I have to say.
Okay. And this is not an action item, so we do have a consensus from the council to have staff review this and bring it back. Okay? Thank you again for coming tonight. Item 9C, this is approved use of a portion of city parking lot for sales promotion by Ace Hardware. Cleave?
Just quickly, Ace Hardware has requested the use of a small portion. I think they're taking up 2 parking stalls for a demonstration to occur on April 9th and 10th. They will be demonstrating, I believe it's barbecue grills and chainsaws, or steel chainsaw equipment, I believe. And therefore, the only reason we brought this back to you at this time is because it is located out on city property, and the only recommendation we have is that we require the city to be named on their insurance in order to protect the city if any accidents happen out there. So,
Are there any questions for Cleave? Okay, can we have some direction, please?
I move that we approve the outdoor sales event by Ace Hardware in the city parking lot.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Item D, this is a discussion item only. Highway 33 improvements related to auto dealerships and adjacent properties.
Just quickly, Mayor Marquez requested that this be put on the agenda. There are, as you know, the 2 auto dealerships that we have on Highway 33, and there are at least some adjacent properties to one of those dealerships that are currently up for sale. And there's other issues, I guess, involved with the dealerships. In the past, they have come before us to staff, and I believe also talked to council members about being able to do certain improvements. There's certain things restrictions that have kind of slowed them down in looking at our historic preservation ordinance possibly and other issues. And therefore, Mayor Marquez requested that we put this on the agenda and see if staff wants us to, or if council wants staff to look at this and see if there are areas, possible properties that we want to pursue looking at for possible purchase or combining with these auto dealerships, working with them to improve that area where those auto dealerships are located. And Mayor, I'll allow you to add anything you'd like to.
Well, just to add a little bit, Cleave's pretty much summed it up. I was interested in maybe having us look at a long-term plan with the auto dealerships. This again, goes back to the sales tax issue for our community, and just looking at maybe having the city manager and city staff work with both dealerships to see what their long-term plans are, what they're interested in doing as far as expansion. One of the dealerships, as Cleave had mentioned, was interested in doing some improvements. Unfortunately, with the historical preservation ordinance, they were unable to, and so I think we just need to review what they want to do, how we're going to work with them to address their long-term needs, and without getting into specifics as far as properties, I'm just asking that the council concur as far as having staff work with them on their long-term development needs. Is there?
But which properties are the ones that are up for sale right now that they're interested in? Is it
Well, I'm not saying they are interested in them. I'm just
okay.
saying that those properties are for sale. That one of them, for example, is the Moose Lodge that is for sale currently.
Right.
That's probably the only one that is specifically for sale. There are other properties in that area, though.
Right. But this is basically to direct the staff to work with both dealerships to look at their long-term needs in our community and to see how we could work in that regard. But is there consensus from the council on that?
Certainly those auto dealerships are a big source of our sales tax revenue, so I think it's very important that the city work with them to develop some sort of a long-range vision so that we can keep them in our community.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you, Cleave. Okay, item 9E, this approve agreement with Newman Youth Baseball League, approve city sponsorship of program, and authorize city to have full control of program. Cleave?
Just to briefly outline this issue, you have my staff report, and I handed out what I'm referring to as I guess a new agreement. What I'd like to propose is that the handout which I gave you tonight is called Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Newman and Newman Youth Baseball Organization, that this be used as the actual agreement, and then the agreement that you have in your packet will simply be attached to that as an attachment. What I'm trying to do, what we're doing here, is, as I mentioned in my staff report, as we reviewed this, council recalls last year, actually before I was here, action was taken, it was reviewed and decided that the Newman Youth Baseball Organization wanted to break off from the city and be under their own control, and which is great, and we wanted to encourage that and keep that going. However, one concern and problem that I ran into this year in reviewing the program with them is that technically last year they were probably not covered for liability insurance throughout the year. Because of the fact that they had taken over the program, they did not purchase liability insurance. Prior to last year, it was run as a city program, and therefore they were covered under the city's liability program. So we started fumbling around quickly to try and find a solution to this, because, as you know, they had their tryouts actually last Saturday, and they're proceeding with their baseball season, and so we needed to act quickly. And they started looking at different areas, different sources to acquire liability insurance. There were several options that they looked at, however, none that seemed feasible in terms of cost and really accomplished what they thought they wanted to with it. At that point, I went and reviewed with, actually sat down with the president of the organization, and he has since gone back to his board. In fact, I met with his board last night, and we felt that the best option right now, because of the timing, is to bring, through this agreement and et cetera, bring the program back under the control of the city, and therefore, with it under the control of the city, our liability insurance will cover the program. The youth baseball organization will actually be volunteers of the city. We need to make that clear, that it will not be a separate or complete separate organization that has those powers, that the city will have full control of the program. The reason, and the question came up by the baseball organization, what do you mean by full control? And it is just that we need to have that full control. Otherwise, there are problems created with our insurance such that the program may not be covered. I stressed to them last night that I'm very happy with what I've seen so far as the way they're running the program. By all means, I hope that they continue, and I will encourage them to continue in that matter. There are just a couple of recommendations, basically in the wording, that we are recommending in order to bring that back under the control of the city and allow that insurance coverage to happen. Just quickly, in this item that I've handed out to you, it states that the liability insurance will be under the city's program, so there will be coverage there. The recommendation is that a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission serve on the baseball board and represent the city in that capacity. The real thing in here that I've written on this sense is that the city will maintain full control of the program, and should any disagreements occur, the city manager shall make the final decision in all matters. That gives the full control back to the city, and therefore, if there is a problem, we can clearly represent that the city has control of the program. Any problems as far as claims that might come up, our liability insurance will then cover it. As I mentioned, I did review this issue with the baseball board last night, and they accepted that and felt that was the best way to go right now. So.
Are there any questions for Cleave on this?
This will be just on a year-to-year basis, right?
Correct. Our intention is to try to continue to move them towards independence, so they would be separate from the city. There's a couple options there. If they were able to get their nonprofit 501(c)(3) status, then there are some other options in terms of insurance that are available to them. There's an organization called Nonprofit Insurance Authority, I believe the term is, that actually is set up to provide liability insurance for nonprofit agencies. The city of Gustine, for their program, gets their insurance at a very good rate through their PAL program. So there are other options that we can look at. However, with the timing this year, we didn't have time to set those up and continue to let the baseball program run on schedule.
Cleave, with regards to number 4 of the report that we had in our packet. The Parks and Recreation Commission is going to have appoint a representative to the Newman Youth Baseball Board. Mike, the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Commission, is aware of that?
I have not. We have not reviewed that with them,
Okay,
but we will on Thursday night.
Okay.
This item will be covered similar to what the Dave Tatro Park issue was covered, in that we're kind of jumping the gun again, but because of
Okay.
timing, we had to
Okay.
have this approved so that this could move forward. So
Right.
we will take that to them. It's on their agenda for Thursday night, the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay.
If there are major issues, I'm going to recommend that we go ahead and approve it, and then it'll come back to you at your next meeting if necessary. But we need to get this signed and or all approved and in place so we make sure we have the coverage for the baseball program.
Okay. And go ahead.
I have one other quick question. On here it says the city will hire and pay a maintenance work to prepare and keep up the fields, hours, and duties of this worker will be mutually agreed upon. This will be a temporary person just hired for the baseball season?
Yes, we already have this person that we've used from year to year, and we use him every year. So,
Fine.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just quickly let you know on this attachment, if I could, a couple of changes that I made so that you know. On the, what would it be, the first page of the agreement, I changed the word agreement to attachment at the very top. So this will simply be an attachment to the MOU. In the second paragraph down where it says the program is under the general control of the city, I've changed that word general to full control of the city. And then on the last page, I believe it's next to the last page, excuse me, number 6, I've changed that to read the Newman Youth Baseball Organization shall be responsible for implementation of the program. I've taken out those words and assumes all responsibility and liability for, in order to state that it is back under the control of the city. And then item number 7 will simply be taken out because we are now providing the insurance for the program.
Any other questions for Cleave? Tom, did you have any other comments or changes that you felt were necessary to that? No? Okay. If we have no other questions, can we have some direction on this item, please?
I so move for approval of an agreement with the Newman Youth Baseball League, approve city sponsorship of program, and authorize city to have full control of program.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Item 9F, this is approval of warrant number 16509 to PG&E. If there are no questions, can we have some direction on this item?
Move for the approval of warrant 16509 to PG&E.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Not participating.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0 with 1 non-participating. Item number 10, these are items from the city manager. Cleave?
I don't have anything to additional tonight.
Item 11, items from the city council. Councilmember Martina.
I have nothing tonight.
Councilmember Altemuller.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Radford.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Reed.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
And I have nothing. Before I we go into closed session. If there are any questions from the public, Mike, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. Mike Perez, 1019 S Street, Newman, California. Just to throw back into the pool, I spoke to Cleave today earlier, and the one thing that I would like to bring to you people back is the skate park that has been haunting us for 2-3 years. That maybe we can put that on the burner so that we can get this thing done for these kids. We've talked about it, and so today I thought would be a great idea to bring it back to you guys so that you guys can all thrash it and decide with Cleve exactly where is it you want this park that we could put together. Because we have not only volunteers, but we have people that will help us at this point with the cement and putting it together, a bunch of volunteers. And I don't want to lose that enthusiasm that we've built up over the last 7-8 months, and I just felt like we're losing, and now we're reapproaching these parks and this and that, which we're going to do, Thursday, but we're going to take that into consideration. But I wanted to make sure to bring it back on the burner on this skate park, 'cause it's really been a thorn on our side, and I just would like you guys to thrash it around and give Cleave some direction of where you want it.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Is that something the council would like to direct staff to revisit
Yes.
again? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll look at that. It's an ongoing thing. It's not that we've forgotten it, and we've discussed it many times with, I see Mary shaking her head. We've been discussing it with her and figuring out a way to make this work, and we do have some things we're working on. I probably won't bring it back at the next meeting just because I would like to have something more concrete that we can recommend to you, but we will bring that back to you. We're constantly reviewing that issue, actually. So.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the public, Ms. Borba? No? Okay. At this time, we're going to go into closed session under Property Negotiations, Governmental Code Section 54956.8, Item A, 1905 N Street and 1915 N Street, Item B, 1408 M Street and 1420 M Street. At this time, I'm going to ask that we take about a 2-minute break, if you wouldn't mind. Okay.